the last 24 hours, a lot of you guys have sent me links, have tagged me, shared stuff with me. I've gotten approached in person multiple times on this topic. And so today I'm going to be addressing the recent Disney, it's a Santa Claus show. There is seeming satanic worship of sorts. Let's just begin. I think it started with a Facebook post that went viral where someone took a snippet from a scene in the Tim Allen Santa Claus series where these kids are holding up signs that say, "We love," and instead of Santa, the letters are switched so that it says Satan. And it is horrifying seeing that image. And I'm gonna be honest with you, when people first mentioned it to me in person and then I started getting tagged on it online, I was disgusted. I grew up watching the Tim Allen movies. I grew up finding a lot of joy in learning about the heritage of Santa, his Christian conviction to give to others. I think it is a beautiful thing. We see that reflected in Acts 2. And I know not all Christians like to promote Santa or reference Santa because it isn't something that is biblical. However, I don't really want us to get there because I know how divisive it is, and the enemy would love to divide us over that. However, here in this Disney show, Disney seemingly, in this clip that's shared all over the internet that Christians are all up in arms about, is promoting satanic worship. But I just did a little bit of digging. I just took a couple Google searches to find out that the scene actually continues. After those kids hold up the signs that say, "We love you, Satan," there's actually like a gasp, and Tim Allen's like, "Whoa, check your spelling," kind of thing, and they switch the letters, and it's a joke. Now, is this joke edifying? No. Does this mean that Christians should be like, "Oh, phew, now I can go back to Disney World"? Not necessarily that either. You see, we should not be surprised when the world does things of the world. We should not even, I would say, necessarily be shocked, because we should expect it. 1 John 3:13 says, "Don't be surprised if the world hates you or if the world hates your faith." I feel like this joke wasn't done with a Christian worldview. It's to make light of Satanism and Satan worship. It's not funny in my Christian point of view. Scripture tells us to resist the devil. I mean, there's nothing glorifying about that joke. I would argue that it's not very edifying. I also would admit to you guys, like, when I found out the continuation of the scene and that it had been taken out of context, I was like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. And then the more I thought about it, and the more Joe and I kind of discussed it, we were like, actually, that's totally gross. And as Christians, we should still totally be disgusted by that. Why do we normalize those kinds of jokes? And there's a lot of ways that this is infiltrated even into Christian culture. I think Christians shouldn't joke like this. Ephesians, written to the church, urges us to walk in a manner worthy of our calling. That's chapter 4, verses 1 and following. 1 John 2 tells us not to love the world or the things of the world. That humor is not of God. You would never find Jesus making that kind of joke, and I can pretty confidently say that. Romans 12:2 tells us not to be made like the world, to take on that kind of humor about serious things, about the enemy that we're actually at war with. Even James 4:4, it reminds us that friendship with the world is enmity with God. That's something to take very seriously. So I'm not trying to say that just because this clip went viral that was taken out of context that we should just be like, oh, that show or that joke is totally fine, or I have no problems with Disney overall. However, I would urge you believers, if you're someone who, like me, got immediately emotionally invested in this, immediately couldn't talk about anything else or think about anything else, I just had to Google and look and read and dwell on it. If you're like me on that, we also then are not being biblical dwelling on it. Philippians 4:8 tells us to dwell on whatever is true, noble, right, pure, not dwelling on the grossness of this world. Reminder, 1 John tells us not to be surprised by the grossness of the world, or where the world hates our faith, or when the world celebrates evil. So the tension here for believers, while we might want to be initially off-put by this and get kind of really invested, I would argue rather to dwell on what is true, what is right, what is noble, what is pure, what is trustworthy. And that means having a conviction, being able to make a defense, 1 Peter 3:15 style, for our faith and our convictions on why we don't make jokes like that, like why we actually take spiritual warfare seriously, why we actually believe that there is an enemy and a battle going on, but also be able to engage in the world. When you come across scenes like that, maybe you're watching that Tim Allen show right there with your kids, being able to pause the show and say, wow, we just saw something that's a little little problematic. Let's unpack this. Let's talk about this. Let's engage in this, engage in this culture to counteract it and resist the devil, James 4:7 style. I mean, I'm seeing so much gross stuff online lately. Do not be surprised, but also if you're like me and you tend to want to get really emotionally invested, I encourage you to dwell on what is true, right, pure. Make sure you know the scriptures, you know why you hold the convictions that you hold. And I think all of this is a call to be back in the word. Know why you believe what you believe. If you believe the word is true, be reading the word so that you can have those hard conversations with your kids. You know what? We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. We're not going to make this kind of humor or whatever it may be because the scriptures say, and you can make a defense because you know the word. That's what my channel's all about here, is helping you love the word, know how to study it and go in depth. I am here to teach you how to read the word and to inspire you to get deep into the word and make sure you're reading the word. And so I want to encourage you, while this is very disappointing and it's discouraging, be in the word. May this propel you to make sure you are armed with that sword of truth. Now, I will see you guys in this video where we talk all about how to read the word and understand it every single time you open it.